everyone, this is Pallabi and today I'm going to show the 10th game of the book Logical Chess Move by Move by Irving Jernev. This is a beautiful game where white made a beautiful king hunt. The opening was French defense and it was played between Tarrasch and Eckart in 1889 in Nuremberg. So white started with e4, controlling the center and also making way for the queen and bishop to come out and controlling the d5 and f5 square. Black played e6, the French defense. The French defense conceals a great deal of potential dynamic energy and is a fine weapon against an over-enthusiastic attacking player. Black's position is not easily assaulted despite its cramped appearance. So here white played d4, also controlling the center, controlling the c5 and e5 square and also making way for the c1 bishop to come out. Now black played d5, attacks the e pawn while giving his queen more mobility. After this, white played knight to d2. It is important to dispute the control of the center. So after knight d2, from here white develops his knight and supports the e4 pawn. He avoids getting pinned as might occur after knight c3 by bishop to b4. Also, he is prepared to support the d4 pawn by playing c3, so that if black plays c5 and captures the d4 pawn, he can recapture with his c pawn, still keeping his pawn in the center. So after knight d2, now black played knight to f6. Well, this knight d2, it blocks the way of the c1 bishop, but it's temporary. So after knight d2, black played knight f6, developing his knight and attacks the e4 pawn. By attacking the e4 pawn, black is trying to disrupt the pawn's center. Now white played e5, drives away the knight from its favorable post off to another square where it interferes with the free movements of black's other pieces. Knight to d7, knight f d7, just about the only move left, as had black played knight to e4, then knight takes knight, pawn takes knight and bishop e3. White controls more space and has free development for his pieces. Black, on the other hand, has to worry about his e4 pawn, which is vulnerable to attack, as it is disconnected from the rest of his pieces, his forces. So after bishop e3, this is good for white. So that's why black played knight d7. Had black played knight to g8, it's just waste of time as it has went back to his home. So after knight to d7, now white played bishop to d3, developing on an open diagonal, also making way for his king to castle and frees his constricted position. So here black played c5, strikes in the center and also making way for his pieces to come out from here or here, and right now it's attacking the d4 pawn. So after c5, now white played c3, supporting the d4 pawn and creating a pawn chain. After this, actually had white played knight to f3, then pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn and knight takes e5, gaining a pawn. So after that, after c5, white played c3, creating a pawn chain, and now black played knight to c6, developing with tempo as it's attacking the d4 pawn. Now white played knight to e2, supports the d4 pawn and makes way for castling also. Also, white's planning to place his knight d2 knight to cf3, and it will be a good position for this knight and which will make way for his bishop to come out. So here black played queen to b6, putting more pressure on the d4 pawn, and now black is threatening to play c cross d4, c cross d4, knight cross d4, knight cross d4 and queen cross d4, gaining a pawn. So after queen b6, Now white played knight f3. The knight shifts and protects the d4 pawn and makes way for his c1 bishop. Now black played bishop to e7. Another plausible move, but far too passive. Black's position is cramped by the chain of enemy pawns d4 and e5, and he should not allow this situation to persist. He must try to break white's grip on the center to obtain more space for his pieces. The correct continuation was c cross d4, c cross d4 and f6. Pawn takes pawn and knight takes pawn. Now the d7 knight, the problem of the d7 knight blocking his c8 bishop has been resolved, and the disappearance of this e5 pawn means that black has gained the d6 square for the development of his dark squared bishop. So after bishop e7, it's passive for black. Now white played short castle. King safety, black also played short castle. But this is not a good move. Black is still playing mechanical chess, unconscious of possible danger. With this move, white loses the chance of striking at the center, striking at the pawn chain by playing f6. So here, instead of castle, black could have played f6. So after knight f4, that's what white played, is preventing black from playing f6, because if black plays f6, then knight takes e6, gaining a pawn. So after knight f4, black played knight d8, protecting the e pawn so that he can play f6 and break up white's pawn formation. So after knight d8, now white played queen to c2. Another variation, instead of knight to d8, had black played c cross d4, then white would capture c cross d4. Now if you think that black is gaining a pawn, it's incorrect, because if knight captures pawn, knight will capture the knight, queen captures knight, and bishop captures h7, and it's a discovered attack. The queen will be gone. So that is why black did not play c cross d4 here. He played knight to d8. Now after this, white played queen to c2. Queen is off the back rank and threatens to capture the pawn at h7, and forces black to move one of his kingside pawns to save the h7 pawn. Actually here black played f5. Had black played c4, then bishop takes pawn. Had black played h6, becomes target for c1 bishop by playing knight to h3. Also, if black plays g6, creates weak squares f6 and h6. So f5, had black played h6 or g6, he can never afterward play f6 without making g6 square vulnerable to invasion by white's pieces or the focal point of a sacrificial attack on the king side. So after f5, white played e cross f6 en passant. This move relaxes the bind in black's position, but it opens up lines for an attack. And open lines favor the player whose development is superior and whose pieces enjoy greater mobility. So it's good for white now. Now black captured knight cross f6 and supports the pawn on h7, which was again attacked by the bishop. So after knight cross f6, white played knight g5, bringing another piece into the action. Now again attacking the pawn on h7. Here actually white is trying to, the threat is immediate. Bishop cross h7 check, king h8 and knight g6 checkmate. And if instead of king h8, black captures knight cross h7, then queen cross h7 checkmate. So g6. It was forced. Had black played h6, then it's also same, because bishop cross h7 check, bishop h7 check, knight takes h7 and queen cross h7 checkmate, and if king h8, then knight g6 checkmate. So after knight g5, g6 was forced. Now bishop cross g6, sacrificing the bishop to open up the king side. Now black played h cross g6, Otherwise, black would have lost a pawn. And had black played h6, then bishop h7 check, king g7, queen g6 check, king h8, queen cross h6, threatening to checkmate from knight g6. So if black plays rook g8 right now, then bishop g6 discovered check, knight h7, queen takes h7 and checkmate. So after bishop cross g6, h cross g6. Now white played queen cross g6 check. Dramatic entrance of the queen. Black has only one move, king h8, and now white played queen h6 check, clearing the g6 square for the knight. Black played king h8, had black played knight h7, then queen takes h7 and checkmate. So after king g8, now white played knight g6 and black resigned. As white is planning to checkmate by playing either queen to h8, so checkmate, or knight takes e7 and checkmate. So let's say if here black plays knight f7, then knight cross e7, checkmate. So from this game, we learned some more principles of chess, such as the usual occupy the center with pawns, develop your pieces towards the center, castle as early as possible, whenever possible, develop with the threat. It is important to dispute control of the center, never allow cramped position to persist. Open lines favor the player whose development is superior and whose pieces enjoy greater mobility. Try to break a pawn formation in the center which cramps your position. So I hope you enjoyed this game. It was a brilliant sacrifice and a king hunt. Thank you for watching, and please like, comment, share and subscribe to my channel. I will see you in my next video. Thank you. Bye.